I am really, really excited. I'm going to stand out here. So for those of you who have been around around last year or last couple of years, we actually weren't in here last year. So this is super fun to be in here with you guys. You feel also grown up when you're sitting in the big people chairs. And so, yeah. So I don't know how many of you guys saw this, but we are starting tonight a new 3-week series that we're calling Elements. So how many of you are like science geeks, nerds, geeks, I think. Nerds, I don't know. Science people, like science is your jam.
Absolutely.
All right, we got a few of you. How many of you know what the periodic table of the elements is?
I think so.
Okay. All right, we got a few. Wait, hold on, that's my next question. Don't beat me to my punch, all right? All right. How many of you, have any of you actually memorized the periodic table?
No.
1, 2, and a scooch. All right, 2 and a scooch. All right, 3. You got it too? Nice. So here's my question then. Oh, smarty pants. What is the periodic table of the elements? Give us like nice and loud a 1-sentence description. Okay, why is it useful? Can someone else tell me, why is it useful? Yeah. Yeah, okay, so they know what they are, okay. Why is the table useful? Why a table and not just a random Rolodex of items? Yes, great. So, ding, ding, you win. All right, so great answer. The table is organized so that when you look at an element, when you find an element on the table, you can actually tell things about it based on where it is on the table. Okay, so if you look at an element and you go, oh, it's over here, then I know that if I do an experiment, this is probably gonna react this way. All right, is that helpful? That's a really dumb man's like example of how that works. Trying to because I'm not a science geek. It's been a really long time since I've scienced. Yes, it's a verb, okay? I scienced so hard today. You can use it in school. You have my permission. So here's why elements are helpful. You look at the table of elements, you can see, okay, what is it that makes this thing up? How is it gonna react when I interact with it? You can tell a lot about something you're dealing with based on what elements are in it and where on the table that falls. And the reason that we're calling this series Elements is because we're actually gonna be looking at some of the core elements, see what I did there, over the next 3 weeks of what we do here at Keystone Youth. These 3 core elements that I'm gonna give you tonight, tomorrow, next week, and the week after, these 3 core elements, you can look at these 3 things and you can tell a lot about the way we're gonna do things and why we're gonna do things and how you can expect things to go when you're here. Does that make sense? Yeah, everybody with me? All right, sweet. So we are basically breaking down Keystone Youth into the elements and we're gonna figure out what does it look like, okay? So there's gonna be 3 of them. The first one, I'm gonna give it to you up front. The first one is belong, okay? Here's how we're gonna define this. This is the big idea, the bottom line, the one thing I want you to remember from tonight. I'm gonna give it to you ahead of time, and then I'm gonna explain it, and then I'm gonna give it to you again, okay? Here's the idea. We belong to Jesus. I think this is the next slide. We belong to Jesus. Yes, there we go. Because we belong to Jesus, we invite others to belong with us. And see, this is one of the key things that we want to do here every Wednesday night at Keystone Youth. And I'm going to unpack why this is important and why both sentences or both parts of this phrase matter so much. You see, it's because we belong to Jesus, we invite others to belong with us. So there's a lot of, this idea of belonging is actually something that when you're first a kid, you don't really know anything about, you just you're born into like life and a family, and you're like, well, this is how it is, I guess, right? Like, and you go through life, and you just are with your parents all the time. You're with your daycare buddies, and like you don't know anything. And then you start to go to school, and you start to play sports, and you start to interact with people outside your immediate family, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a whole world out here that isn't in my living room. Didn't know that. And all of a sudden, when you're at home, and there was just this, like, you kind of took belonging for granted. Like, yeah, I belong here. I was born here. Like, I don't know anything different. Like, my diaper got changed over there, right? Like, that's all you know. And now all of a sudden, now you're exploring a whole nother world, and you're actually trying to figure out where you belong. You see, when I was little, and I was little once, I think we have a picture of that. Yeah, this is me. I'm actually top center. Just so you know, those are, I would have been about 6. Those are caribou, I'm pretty sure, or mooses. Moose. Those are moose on my shirt. So you knew I was cool. And here's the thing. You see my glasses?
Yeah.
Those glasses, this was the 80s, okay? So like nothing was really cool in the 80s. Like we were all just surviving. But those glasses were like the bane of my existence. So I didn't know any better when I was little, right, that I had glasses. I didn't know that like not all little kids couldn't see. Actually, I just assumed that like when I would go and sit someplace, I would sit in church and I would not actually be able to see. And like if I'm standing here and you're sitting back where like Derek and Noah and all them are standing, like I wouldn't be able to recognize the person that was talking. And I just thought that was normal. Like I thought nobody knew what it was like to see. And then I got glasses and I was like, oh, wait a second. So I'm not normal, right? And whatever, but the problem was I got glasses right around the same time as I decided to go, not decided, like it wasn't really my choice, but I went to school. And as I go to school, now all of a sudden I'm looking around and not everybody around me has glasses, let alone ginormo glasses, okay? Not everyone had these giant like Coke bottles for glasses like I had. And I started to think like, oh man, like I don't fit in here. I don't belong here. And in case you're like, no, but you're still pretty cool, like your sweater redeems you, check out this later picture of me at my own birthday. I'm giving you guys like the evil eyebrow. My birthday cake, if you notice, has like yellow, like purplish pink and blue on it. I can still do the eyebrows, okay? I still got those. And then, but hold on. Seriously though, you guys have to check my shirt out because it's legit cool, okay? It's a Batman shirt. And here's the thing. I wanted so desperately to be like other people. But honestly, you guys, I have never, ever been anywhere remotely near cool. Like I desperately wanted to be, and I would see these people that had their lives together. Well, that's what it looked like to me anyway. And I don't know, maybe that relates to you a little bit. Like you like walk into school or you walk onto your team or like you go somewhere, maybe you even come here and you see some people that like seem to have their lives together. While you're like me, maybe you're a little bit more like me and you're like, I don't even know, like I don't own cool stuff and I don't know what to do with it if I did own it. Like, maybe you're more like me and maybe you're the person who like, maybe it's all together for you. Great, good being you. But here's the thing. I desperately wanted to fit in. You can get rid of that picture off the screen. That would be great. So I really, I wanted to fit in. And so I wanted it so badly that at one point, when I had those great big glasses, which my parents didn't have a lot of money, so like buying those glasses was already like a pretty big investment for them. But I wanted it so badly, and I thought, well, man, if I didn't have these glasses, maybe the next time I went to pick out glasses, maybe I would get better ones. And so I put my head in my hands like this, with my glasses like this, and I snapped them. I pressed my face into them so hard that I snapped them in half, thinking, maybe now my parents will buy me some more socially acceptable glasses. Do you guys know what happened? They got taped together. And I wore glasses that were taped together. And do you know what that did to help me feel like I belonged? Not anything good. Nothing good. Here's the thing. You guys are at an age where if you haven't already, you're going to start to struggle and to think through, like, where is it that I fit in? Like, what is my place? And I don't know about you, but like, as I think about school and I think about sports teams, like, in my experience, there's always been a couple of different groups that you're like, man, there's the group that you feel like, yeah, it's easy to fit in with those people. And the group that you feel like, but yeah, I'd rather fit in with those. That's been my experience. And man, if that's academic for you, if that's athletic for you, if that's social, whatever it is, there's always that tension in our souls. And when we say that we want you to actually be able to belong here, that honestly, you're gonna hear that a lot of places. It's funny, this has been in our language for a really long time. I was at Parkview. How many get Parkview? Where you at? Yeah, all right. We got some sweet Southside representation here. I was at Parkview last week, 2 weeks ago, for back to school night, and they literally had that word plastered everywhere, right? But here's the thing. There's only a couple of ways that people can pursue belonging. Two things can happen. One is I will change whatever I have to change about myself to belong to the group that I want to belong to. The second is, other people who are like me, right? Like I will stay me, and other people who are like me will find each other, and then we will belong together, right? That's either A, I have to change me and then go run to this other group, or if I wait long enough, maybe I'll find some people that are like me and where I belong. And actually, what the gospel does, what Jesus does, and this is why I say it's important that we say it the way we do, that it's because we belong to Jesus that we invite others to belong with us. See, what Jesus does is he actually changes and shifts that paradigm so that we're no longer saying, I either have to change me to belong to that group or I have to wait till I find a bunch of people that are the same as me to belong to. Actually, he does a fundamental shift. And what he actually says is, because of Jesus, people with nothing in common can actually belong together. And so I actually want to walk you through a little bit about what that looks like. And so the first thing is this: because we belong to Jesus. So what does it mean that we belong to Jesus? Because honestly, if you're here and you're like not a church person, maybe you're like, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't get that. I don't know if that's really me. And here's the big idea. We're not cool enough, pretty enough, attractive enough, athletic enough, awesome enough to fit in God's club, so to speak. The Bible says it this way. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 10 says, once you were not a people. Like, not like you were like not an awesome people, but like you were just not a people. Like you, and what he means by that is he's talking to actually an ethnic group, and he says, look, when people looked at you, you didn't even have really an identity to be paid attention to. You had nothing going for you. But now you are God's people. See the difference? It's a fundamental shift, and we're gonna look at a couple of them. So the next one is Romans 5, verse 10. The guy who wrote Romans says it this way. His name is Paul. He says, for if we were enemies and then were reconciled, or means brought into right relationship with God by the death of his son, we are now reconciled and be saved by his life. Here's what he's saying. Not only were you not a people, you weren't cool enough, you weren't good enough. He says, actually, you and God were fighting. You guys had a beef, like a major, major issue. And I don't know if you've ever had like friend drama. Anybody ever hear of friend drama? Anybody? Oh, a few of you. Okay, welcome to middle school. All right. If you haven't had friend drama yet, it's coming someday. But have you guys ever just, people who you thought were your friends just stab you in the back? People you thought were your friends Maybe like they gave you the cold shoulder for somebody that they thought was cooler. Yeah. Honestly, if we're all honest, it's probably happened to all of us. I know for sure it's happened to me. Do you know how that feels? Do you remember how that feels, like deep down in your gut, when you're like, man, like I really care about them and I thought it was mutual. I've like gone way out of my way to be kind and generous toward them, and I thought it was mutual. And then all of a sudden, you realize that they're being selfish and that they actually don't care at all about you. You guys, that's a tiny, tiny picture of the way it must have felt for God when his people that he loved, that he cared so much about, that he invested so much in, when all of a sudden they said, you know what, God, forget you. I'm going to go do things my own way. It says we were enemies. So we were the farthest thing from belonging to God. But I want you to see this in Galatians. Do we have that? The book of Galatians, chapter 3. Do you guys remember this? We just went through this a couple weeks ago. If you were with us for Summer Youth, we went through the book of Galatians, and this is what he says. For those of you who are baptized into Christ have been clothed with Christ. There's no Jew or Greek or slave or free or male or female, since you are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you belong to Christ, you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. I want you to look at that, see that phrase, if you belong to Christ. If you belong to Christ. You see, we read all of that negative. You were not a people. You were enemies with God. And God actually says, somehow we can belong to his son, Jesus. And it's through the gospel. You see, because what I said in Romans 5 is it starts with you were enemies, but it ends with the fact that Christ died for you. You see, what God did was that he bridged the gap between us to pull us out of our rejection and out of our brokenness. And he offers to us an unconditional belonging, where instead of us having to change and conform ourselves to them, be good enough to belong with God, God actually says, I want to enter your space. I want to enter your reality, and I want you to belong with me. And this is the first half of that statement. It's because we belong to Jesus that we then invite others to belong with us. And so the first question that I want to ask you is, do you belong to Jesus? Has there been a moment in time in your life where you have seen the brokenness and the rejection of your own life, and you've said, you know what? I can't change myself enough. I can't be good enough. I can't figure it out on my own. And you've accepted the sacrifice and the love of Jesus Christ. You've actually done what's called repenting of your sin, where you turn away from your sin and you said, you know what? I believe that Jesus' death on the cross and his resurrection to show his power over death was enough for me. Do you belong to Jesus? Because if you belong to Jesus, the next part is for you. And maybe you're here tonight and you're like, look, I'm not there yet, or I don't actually know. That's okay. We want to help you walk through it and get there, but we're not going to rush you. The next piece of it is this. If we belong to Jesus, or because we belong to Jesus, for those of you who do, we invite others to belong with us. And I want you to see what he says in Galatians. He says that there is not what? He says there's not, I'm going to mess it up, Jew or Greek. That's ethnicity, okay? Slave or free. That's social class, male or female. Talking about gender roles. Okay, here's what he's saying. Is he saying that, okay, well, you're all one ethnicity now, you're all one social class now, and you're all one gender now? Is that what he's saying? We always have to stop and ask the Bible. If we read something that doesn't quite make sense, stop and ask, like, what could it possibly be meaning? See, in the first century, these were the massive divisions of belonging. Just like in your school, there's probably massive divisions of who belongs where. Here, it was ethnic, okay? The ethnic divide in our country, even right now, is huge. It is huge. There is a massive ethnic divide where people identify by their ethnicity more than they do by their humanity. And what Paul says in Galatians is that there is not Jew nor Greek. In other words, your ethnicity, as important as it is, I mean, honestly, our ethnicity informs us, and it's helpful to us, but it does not define us. In Jesus, your ethnicity does not define you. He says there's not slave nor free. That, honestly, in Ankeny, like, there's not a ton of people that are slaves. And it's just, thankfully, like, we're beyond that for the most part here. But do you think social class divisions still exist? Do you think the upper middle class and wealthy of Ankeny and those who are just scraping to get by, do you think there's some division there? Have you experienced that? And guys, I say that we don't have the slavery issue here, and I specify here because it is a real reality in other places of the world, and even in not the mass slavery of early America, but in very real ways, even in our own country. But you guys, social class no longer defines us. And third, he says gender roles. So you see, in the first century, women had very few rights. They were viewed much more as property than people. And when Jesus came, what he said is, he says, I want to elevate or restore women to their rightful place as equal in value with men. Are the roles and are your roles and responsibilities and the way that you're wired, is it different than men? Yes, absolutely. Is your value different? Absolutely not. And what Paul says here is that if we belong to Christ, that we don't primarily identify by our ethnicity or our social class or our gender or anything else that you can possibly think of. We identify with Jesus. And so here's the question then. If you're here and you've found a place to belong here, you know that you belong to Jesus, who in your life do you need to go out of your way to help them find a place to belong? If Jesus was willing to go from heaven to earth, from riches to the cross, maybe there's somebody that you've been avoiding. Maybe I don't know, like very real, like maybe they smell bad. Maybe you avoid them because you know if I go near them, they are going to talk my ear off, and I do not have the time or the patience for that. Maybe you know that if you go near them, some other people that you care about their opinion are going to actually think less of you. Who in your life do you need to invite into a belonging? And that's actually going to be the main application for most of you here. Because even in these walls, it's really easy to form our core group of friends and not to be welcoming and inviting to the other people that walk in. So the question is, and I want you guys to talk about this in your groups, if someone brand new walked into your connection group, would they feel welcome? Would they feel like they belong? Because you see, if we belong with Jesus, we should be way more than happy to invite others to belong with us. And I'm going to close with this. Maybe you're here and you don't feel like you belong anywhere. You're like, I don't know what we're talking about belonging to Jesus, but I for sure don't belong to any of the groups I want to belong to. And I just want to tell you that we're glad you're here. Whether you are the most popular kid on your team or you're the one who never gets picked for a team, we really, really love you and we're glad you're here. Whether you are like, you know the whole Bible cover to cover, or you've never read the Bible in your life, we love you and we're really glad you're here. Whether you are the most obedient child the world has ever seen, and your parents are constantly impressed by you, or whether you're honestly just a terrible human being. I'm kidding, you're not, but you know. We're really glad you're here. And maybe the person that you're thinking about that you want sitting next to you the least is the person who needs it the most. And that's why our first core element is that we're a place where people can belong. I'm going to pray for us, and then I'm going to dismiss you. You're going to follow your group leaders who you just met to your connection groups and just as soon as I dismiss us, all right? Father, thank you for the attention of these students. I'm so thankful that you've brought each of them. God, thank you for the story that you're writing in them. God, I know that it can be hard to try to figure out our place. I know that sometimes it's risky to go out on a limb and to invite and invest in others. And God, I just pray that we would be willing to take risks because you took the ultimate risk for us. And God, if there's a student tonight that hasn't moved from enemies with you into belonging to you, God, would you help tonight to be the time they take that step? And God, I just pray that this place would be known as a family where people belong just as they are. In Jesus' name, amen.